Family demanded 8,000 while my son underwent surgery alone. I'm Sarah. I'm 32, work in finance, and I'm raising my 6-year-old son Michael on my own. Last week, something happened that made me see my family in a completely different light. Michael needed emergency appendix surgery. I was terrified. I called everyone. My parents, my younger sister Jessica, anyone who could help. Nobody came. Let me back up so you understand how I got here. I grew up in suburban Chicago with my parents Linda and Tom, and my younger sister Jessica. From the start, there was an unspoken rule in our house. Jessica was the golden child, and I was the responsible one. Every photo album tells the story. Jessica in her dance recitals with our parents beaming. Jessica opening Christmas presents. Jessica getting praised for every small achievement. Me. I was just there, the steady one who never caused problems. By 16, I was working at the grocery store after school and weekends. Not because we needed money. We were solidly middle class. But my parents made it clear I was responsible for my own extras. When I got my acceptance letter to University of Chicago, we sat at the kitchen table to talk about tuition. My mom stirred her coffee and said, "Sarah, we don't have that kind of money for you. We figured you'd get scholarships or go somewhere cheaper." What she didn't say was they were already saving for Jessica, who was 2 years behind me. I graduated with a business degree after taking out student loans and working 30 hours a week. Meanwhile, Jessica changed majors 3 times over 6 years at 3 different schools, and our parents paid for everything. I started as a bank teller at 22. I lived in a tiny studio apartment and packed my lunch every day to save money. When I called my parents excited about my first promotion to personal banking associate, they were busy helping Jessica move into a new apartment after she'd dropped out of college again. I met Daniel when I was 25. We got married 8 months later. My parents complained our simple ceremony was too modest. We always imagined giving one of our daughters a proper wedding, my mom said with obvious disappointment. After 2 years of marriage, I got pregnant with Michael. During my pregnancy, I earned my biggest promotion yet, financial advisor at one of Chicago's top firms. But after Michael was born, Daniel changed. He worked late, got irritated by the baby crying, admitted he wasn't ready to be a father. By the time Michael turned 2, the divorce was final. Daniel pays child support on time but rarely sees Michael. Every other weekend became once a month, then just holidays. I don't badmouth him to Michael, but the truth is I'm raising our son alone. Michael is the sweetest, most curious kid despite his health challenges. He was born with a mild heart murmur that requires regular checkups. He's always been prone to respiratory infections. The medical bills add up, but my career lets me handle it. What I can't give him is a loving extended family. Over the years, a clear pattern developed. My parents and Jessica only contacted me when they needed something. Usually money. First, my parents needed help refinancing their house after taking out a second mortgage to pay for Jessica's graduate school, which she quit after 1 semester. I got them a better rate and paid the closing costs myself. That was $400 from the vacation fund I'd been saving for Michael and me. Then Jessica had $10,000 in credit card debt from shopping and weekend trips with friends. My parents called in a panic, saying Jessica cried herself to sleep every night worrying about debt collectors. I set up a payment plan and covered the first 4 months. Another few thousand gone. Each time, I got half-hearted thanks and promises to change. Then months of silence until the next crisis. Whenever I tried to talk about Michael's school or his health concerns, they seemed distracted. "Your sister is really struggling right now," my mom would say. "You're just better with money, Sarah. It's always come easily to you." Easily. As if I wasn't working 55-hour weeks while raising a child alone. As if I hadn't planned every dollar. Given up vacations and new clothes and dinners out just to keep us secure. But I accepted this arrangement. The responsible daughter who had to save everyone but never got support in return. Nothing prepared me for what happened last Wednesday. Last Wednesday started like any other school day. I was making Michael's lunch: turkey sandwich with the crusts cut off, apple slices, and a small cookie. He walked into the kitchen holding his stomach. "Mommy, my tummy really hurts," he said, looking pale. At first, I thought it was a stomach bug going around his second-grade class. But within 20 minutes, he was crying on the couch, saying the pain was getting worse. It was focused on his right side. My mind went immediately to appendicitis. I called work to report a family emergency, grabbed Michael, and drove straight to the ER. The triage nurse took us back right away. Within an hour, a doctor confirmed my fierce acute appendicitis. Michael needed emergency surgery before his appendix ruptured. "We need to operate within 2 hours," Dr. Chen, the surgeon, told me. "The good news is this is a routine procedure, but he'll need to stay in the hospital for at least 2 days afterward to monitor for infection." I stepped into the hallway while they prepped Michael for pre-op tests. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. "Mom," I said when she answered. "Michael has appendicitis. We're at Memorial Hospital. They're prepping him for emergency surgery right now. I'm really scared. Can you and Dad come?" There was a pause. "Oh honey," she said. "I have my standing hair appointment at 11, and your father was planning to clean the gutters today." I closed my eyes and tried to steady my breathing. "Mom, your grandson is having emergency surgery. The hair appointment can wait." "Well, let me talk to your father and see what we can do," she said, sounding irritated. "What time is the surgery?" "They said within the next 2 hours. Please hurry. We'll see what we can do." "Sarah, don't be so dramatic. Appendectomies are routine these days." I hung up and called Jessica. It went to voicemail. I texted her explaining the situation and begging her to come to the hospital. I went back to Michael's side and pretended to be calm. The next few hours were a blur. Michael was taken to surgery, and I was told to wait in the family waiting room. I watched other families comfort each other. Couples, groups of 3 or 4, grandparents entertaining siblings with games and snacks. I kept checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for someone from my family to respond. After an hour, my mom texted, "Let us know when he's out of surgery. Your father's back is acting up today, so driving would be difficult." Jessica didn't respond at all. A nurse named Janet brought me coffee. "Is someone coming to sit with you?" she asked kindly. I shook my head, not trusting myself to speak without crying. "Well, I'll check on you when I can," she said, touching my shoulder. "Our surgical team is excellent with appendectomies. Your little boy is in good hands." 2 hours later, Dr. Chen found me in the waiting room. "The surgery went perfectly," he said with a smile. "We caught it before it ruptured. Michael's in recovery now, and you can see him in about 20 minutes. I texted my parents and Jessica the good news. My mom replied with a thumbs up emoji. My dad texted, "Great news. Tell the little guy we love him." Jessica responded an hour later, "Glad he's okay." Nobody offered to come visit. When I saw Michael in recovery, drowsy and small in the hospital bed with all the monitors and equipment, he opened his eyes and whispered, "Mommy." I held his hand, fighting back tears. "The doctor fixed your tummy. You're so brave." His eyes searched the room. "Is Grandma here? Or Grandpa?" My throat tightened. "Not right now, buddy. But they sent their love. They're so proud of how brave you've been." "Will they come tomorrow?" he asked before drifting back to sleep. "Maybe." I lied, knowing the answer. The next 2 days were grueling. I slept in a recliner beside Michael's bed, waking whenever he did. During his naps, I worked on my laptop to handle my most urgent client matters. I had to step into the hallway for client calls, because the hospital Wi-Fi was terrible, always anxious about being away from Michael, even for 15 minutes. I sent regular updates to my family with pictures of Michael recovering. The responses got shorter and shorter. My mom asked if I'd be coming to Sunday dinner that weekend. Jessica sent a hospital meme. My dad didn't respond at all. Nobody came. No flowers. No offers to bring food or sit with Michael while I took a shower or got some fresh air. By Friday afternoon, when Michael was discharged, the anger in my chest had solidified into something cold and clear. At home, I settled Michael on the couch with his favorite stuffed dinosaur and a Disney movie. I ordered pizza for dinner, a treat, and stroked his hair while he dozed on and off, still tired from surgery and medication. "Mummy," he said quietly. "Are Grandma and Grandpa mad at me?" My heart broke. "No, sweetie." "Why would you think that?" "Because they didn't come see me in the hospital. Mason's grandparents brought him a teddy bear when he broke his arm." I pulled him close. "Grandma and Grandpa love you very much. They've just been very busy. It's not your fault at all." He seemed to accept it, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. He was 7 years old and learning a painful lesson about our family's priorities. After Michael went to bed, I cried for the first time since this whole ordeal began. I cried for my son, who deserved better. I cried for myself, always giving and rarely receiving. Then, the grief turned into something else. A burning anger that was about to explode in ways my family never expected. Sunday morning came. Michael was recovering well at home, moving around more easily. Asking for pancakes for breakfast. His appetite coming back was a good sign. My phone buzzed while I was mixing the batter. A text from my mom. "How is Michael feeling?" It was her first contact since before the surgery. I texted back, "Much better, thanks. Eating well today and moving around more easily." I put the phone down and poured batter onto the griddle. Before the first pancake even bubbled, my phone rang again. I nearly dropped the spatula when I looked at the screen. "This is urgent. Jessica is engaged. Lucas proposed last night. She needs $8,000 for her dream Vera Wang wedding dress. Once in a lifetime opportunity. The boutique needs a deposit by tomorrow. Can you transfer the money today? Family helps family." I stared at the message. I read it 3 times to make sure I was seeing it correctly. My son had just had emergency surgery. Not one family member had visited or helped. 3 days later, they were demanding $8,000 for a wedding dress. I flipped the pancake. It was burnt on one side, and tried to calm down before responding. I wanted to send an angry message immediately, but Michael was watching me from the kitchen island, curious. "Everything okay, Mom?" I forced a smile. "Yes, buddy. Just Grandma saying hi. Your pancake is almost ready." I waited to respond. I fed Michael breakfast, made sure he took his medication, and set him up with Legos in the living room. When I returned to my phone, there were 3 more texts. "Mom, did you see my message about Jessica's dress? They need an answer today." "Dad, your mother told you about the dress. Jessica found the perfect one. $8,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but this is her special day." "Mom again. The boutique closes at 5 today. You're the only one with money to spare. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." A chill ran through me as I sat at the kitchen table. Money to spare. I just paid thousands in out-of-pocket medical costs. I'd taken unpaid leave to care for my son. My phone rang. My father. "Sarah," he said without preamble when I answered. "Did you get your mother's messages about the dress?" "I did," I said carefully. "I'm a little surprised by the timing." "What does timing have to do with anything? Your sister is getting married. Lucas comes from money, and they're expecting a certain level of wedding. The dress is non-negotiable. Dad, Michael just had surgery. I've been dealing with that alone. I have medical bills, and I've missed work. $80,000 for a dress isn't something I can just pull out of thin air." He actually scoffed. "We know you make good money in finance. Don't be selfish. Jessica never asks for anything." I almost laughed at that obvious lie. "Dad. She didn't even call once to check on Michael. Not once during his hospital stay. Did she even tell you he had surgery? We've been busy with Lucas's parents planning an engagement party. Jessica tried this dress on yesterday, And it's perfect. She deserves this. The conversation went on for several more minutes. My father dismissed every concern I raised and kept circling back to family obligations and Jessica's once, in a lifetime moment. After we hung up, my mom called. Then another message from Jessica with photos of her in the dress. It was a huge ball gown with a cathedral train and elaborate beading. It looked like something from a Disney movie, impractical and showy. The last text that came with the photos broke something in me. Thanks in advance. You're the best. Can't wait for you to see me walk down the aisle in this. Lucas's family is so impressed with it. I need your bank details to give the boutique for the deposit. Love you. No mention of Michael. No acknowledgement that her nephew had just had emergency surgery. Not even a pretense of caring. I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone, and something shifted inside me. It wasn't just anger. It was clarity. For years, my family had used me as an ATM, and I'd let them. Worse, I'd been showing Michael that family relationships should be one-sided, exploitative, and careless. As a financial advisor, I counseled clients on setting financial boundaries all the time. I could spot financial abuse in relationships from a mile away. But I hadn't applied those same standards to my own family. I'd enabled their behavior over and over, hoping things would change. They never did. I looked at my finances honestly. I'm comfortable, but I'm not wealthy. My modest 3-bedroom house has a mortgage. I have a growing college fund for Michael, but it needs years more contributions. This surgery had eaten into my emergency savings. My retirement accounts are on track, but not extravagant. That 800,000 they were demanding would mean delaying necessary house repairs, cutting back on Michael's extracurriculars, or raiding my retirement fund. All for a dress worn once by a sister who couldn't be bothered to visit her nephew in the hospital. One final text arrived from my mom while I was processing all this. We know this is a big ask, but remember all we've done for you over the years. Family helps each other. Your sister would do the same for you. I knew exactly what I needed to do. That afternoon, while Michael napped, I opened my laptop. As a financial advisor, I could handle this situation strategically rather than emotionally. Though I was definitely feeling a lot of emotions. First, I reviewed my accounts. Years ago, when my dad had a health scare, my parents and I had opened a joint emergency account. I'd put in forth $500 initially and added small amounts over time. It was meant for a real emergency. The account had just over $7,000 in it. Out of curiosity, I checked the transaction history. What I found made my blood boil. Dozens of small withdrawals over the past year. Were 150 here, 250 there. Never discussed with me. And last week, while Michael was in the hospital, they'd made a $500 withdrawal with the memo line. Advance for dress shopping. They'd been using this emergency fund for Jessica's wedding expenses without even telling me. I called Robert, my branch manager and mentor, from when I started at the bank. After quickly updating him on Michael's recovery, I explained why I was calling. I need to make some changes to my accounts, particularly regarding authorized access, and I'd like your advice on the best way to handle this situation. I explained the joint emergency account, the unauthorized withdrawals, and the 800,000 demand. Robert listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "Unfortunately, this kind of family financial entanglement is more common than you think. The good news is we can take steps immediately to protect your assets." Over the next hour, Robert helped me create a plan. Freeze the joint emergency account to prevent any withdrawals without my physical presence. Create a new educational trust for Michael with strict restrictions limiting access to educational purposes. Only document all cash requests and gifts to establish the pattern. Send one to make my position clear before they drained the emergency fund. Are you sure about this last part? Robert asked after I described my idea. It might escalate the situation. I'm sure, I said. This has been building for years. If I don't make a clear statement now, Nothing will ever change. After getting off the phone with Robert, I opened my banking app. I transferred exactly $2 to Jessica's account with the memo line, "For avail. This is all you get after abandoning Michael." Then I completed the emergency account freeze paperwork and changed all the permissions. I moved the remaining money into a new account in my name only, except for $80 I left behind as a symbolic gesture. I created Michael's new educational trust with ironclad terms. Neither my parents, Jessica, nor even I could withdraw the money for non-educational purposes. It was completely protected. The work brought a strange mix of feelings, not just anger, but empowerment. For years, I'd accepted my role as the family provider, the ATM, the responsible one. For the first time, I was taking control of my finances and my family relationships. I knew there would be backlash. My mother would call me selfish and cry. My father would make vague threats about family loyalty. Jessica would alternate between sweet talking and nasty accusations. But this time was different. This time I had concrete protections in place. This time I was thinking about Michael and what kind of example I was setting for him. What did I want him to learn about relationships? What treatment should he think he deserved? "Mom!" Michael called from his bedroom. I closed my laptop, took a deep breath, and went to check on my son. Whatever storm was coming, I was ready for it, for both our sakes. Monday morning brought the expected storm. I just dropped Michael at school when I got to my office and found my phone exploding with notifications. 6 missed calls from my mom. 4 from my dad. 12 texts from Jessica. 2 voicemails. I braced myself and checked the first voicemail. Mom's voice was panicked and angry. "Sarah Elizabeth, what is this $2 thing? Is this some kind of joke? The boutique needs the deposit by noon today or Jessica loses the dress. Call me immediately." The second message was more frantic. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this is your sister's future happiness at stake. We raised you better than this. Your father is furious. Fix this mistake right now." The texts from Jessica ranged from confusions, "Hey sis, there must be some mistake with the transfer," to sweet talkings, "Please, Sarah, you know how much this means to me," to outright hostilities. "You've always been jealous of me. If you ruin this for me, I will never forgive you." I put my phone on silent and tried to focus on work. But at 10:30, my assistant knocked on my door. "Sarah, your mother is here. She seems very upset. Should I send her in or tell her you're in a meeting?" I'd expected this, though not quite so soon. "Send her in, please. And Lauren, no interruptions for the next 20 minutes, no matter what you might hear." My assistant nodded, looking puzzled but sympathetic. My mother stormed into my office. Tears already streaming down her face mixed with fury. She didn't bother with greetings. "What have you done to the emergency account? Your father tried to withdraw money for Jessica's dress deposit, and the teller said it was frozen. Then we found out you'd emptied it except for $80. This isn't just your money, Sarah." I stayed seated, keeping my voice professional and calm. "That account was created by me for genuine emergencies. Not for wedding dresses. Not for the regular withdrawals you and Dad have been making without my knowledge or consent." "We're your parents? We don't need your consent to use family money." "It's not family money, Mom. It's my money that I earned and set aside in case you or Dad had a health crisis or some other genuine emergency. Over the past year, you've withdrawn nearly $3,500 in small amounts without once mentioning it to me." Her hand waved dismissively. "Small expenses. Nothing worth bothering you about. But this dress is important, Sarah. The boutique won't hold it past noon. Jessica is devastated. Michael had emergency surgery last week," I said quietly. "None of you bothered to visit him or offer any real support. He asked me if his grandparents were mad at him because you didn't come to the hospital." My mother's face showed brief shame, but it was quickly replaced by defensiveness. "We were busy. Hospitals are depressing. We sent our love. A text message isn't support, Mom. Being there for family during a crisis, that's support. An 8,000 wedding dress is not an emergency. The argument escalated. My mother's voice got louder. And I was grateful for my office's thick walls. She brought up every childhood slight, accused me of being ungrateful for everything they'd done, and finally threatened me. If you don't fix this right now, you can consider yourself no longer part of this family. I went cold at those words. Is that really how you measure family, Mom? By financial transactions? Because if withdrawing financial support means I'm not family, then what does it mean that none of you provided emotional support when Michael was in surgery? Were you not already acting like family then? That stunned her into silence. She grabbed her purse and stood up. This isn't over. Your father will be calling you. You have until noon to make this right. As she rushed toward the door, she fired one last shot. And don't bother coming to Sunday dinner anymore, if this is how you treat family. After she left, I sat at my desk shaking but strangely calm. I'd expected the fury, but actually witnessing it was something else. A few minutes later, my assistant peeked in. Everything okay? I think the whole floor heard parts of that. I gave her a weak smile. Family drama. Nothing to worry about. But things got worse before noon. My dad called 4 more times. All went to voicemail. Jessica's texts became increasingly frantic and aggressive. I muted the thread. Then at 1:15, I got an unexpected call from Robert at the bank. Sarah, I wanted to give you a heads up. Your parents just left my office. They were trying to override the freeze on the joint account, claiming it was an emergency situation and that you were having mental health issues, preventing you from making rational decisions. Oh my God. I breathed. They what? They also tried to file a fraud report, claiming you'd illegally transferred funds out of a joint account. I explained that as the primary account holder, who created and funded the account, you had every right to make those changes. Thank you for calling. Robert, I'm sorry you got dragged into this. No need to apologize. I wanted you to know they might try other avenues. They mentioned possibly contacting your firm's management to discuss your concerning behavior. I thought you should be prepared. After thanking Robert again, I went straight to my supervisor's office to get ahead of the situation before my parents could call and claim I was mentally unstable. Sandra, my supervisor of 5 years, listened with growing concern. I had no idea you were dealing with this kind of family pressure, Sarah, she said afterward. If they do call, I'll handle it appropriately. And if you need any time off to deal with this situation, just let me know. By the end of the workday, I'd learned my parents had attempted 3 more withdrawals from the frozen emergency account. The system had blocked all of them. I picked up Michael from his after-school program, exhausted from the emotional warfare, but certain in my decision. For once, someone other than me was going to have to compromise. Tuesday evening, I finally got a call from my father I couldn't ignore. I'd been dodging their calls all day, but something in this one demanded attention. Sarah, my father said with controlled anger, we need to have a family meeting. Tonight, 7 o'clock at our house. I can't do tonight, Dad. Michael's still recovering, and I don't want to leave him with a sitter so soon after surgery. Then bring him. This needs to be resolved immediately. Is this about Jessica's dress? Because my answer hasn't changed. This is about much more than the dress now. You've made serious accusations and taken actions that affect this entire family. 7 o'clock. He hung up before I could respond. I sat in my kitchen weighing my options. Refusing to go would only make things worse. If this confrontation was inevitable, I might as well face it on my terms. I called Mrs. Green, my neighbor, a retired teacher who sometimes watches Michael. I explained I needed her to watch him for a few hours, and she could tell from my tone it was important. Take all the time you need, she said warmly. Michael and I will bake cookies and watch that space documentary he's been talking about. Before I left, I gathered my documents. I'd created a spreadsheet showing over 45,000 in financial contributions to my family over the past decade. I printed out bank statements showing the unauthorized withdrawals from the emergency account. I pulled up text threads showing communication that was exclusively about money. With my evidence and my resolve, I drove to my parents' split-level house where I grew up. Jessica's car and an unfamiliar luxury SUV, which I assumed was Lucas's, were already in the driveway when I pulled up. My mother answered the door without a greeting and led me directly to the living room, where everyone else was waiting. My father sat in his recliner, the position from which he'd always run family meetings since I was a child. Jessica and a tall, well-dressed man I assumed was Lucas sat on the couch. Everyone looked up as I entered, their expressions ranging from angry to uncomfortable. "Sit down," my father said, gesturing to the hot seat, a dining room chair positioned across from everyone else. I stayed standing. "Before we start, I want to be clear about something. I'm here to discuss the pattern of financial and emotional exploitation that's characterized our family relationships for years. I'm not here to be guilted, manipulated, or bullied into paying for Jessica's wedding." Jessica jumped to her feet, her face flushing. "Exploitation? Are you serious right now? Just because I asked for help with my wedding dress?" "This isn't about just the dress, Jessica. This is about years of one-sided support. About the fact that none of you showed up when Michael was in surgery. About the unauthorized withdrawals from the emergency account I created." Lucas spoke up for the first time, looking confused. "What unauthorized withdrawals? What emergency account?" In that moment, I realized Jessica's fiancé probably had no idea about the family's financial dynamics. My mother quickly cut in. "That's not relevant to the current discussion. Lucas, we're here to talk about Sarah's refusal to help with wedding expenses." I turned to address Lucas directly. "I created an emergency fund for my parents years ago. Over the past year, they've been making regular withdrawals without my knowledge, including funds for Jessica's wedding preparations. When I discovered this and froze the account, they tried to tell the bank manager I was mentally unstable." Lucas's eyebrows shot up. He turned to Jessica. "Is this true? You told me your sister was just refusing to contribute to our wedding, not that your parents were already using her money without permission." Jessica looked trapped. "It's not like that. Mom and Dad said the account was for family needs, and the wedding is a family need. An 8,000 dress is not a need," I said firmly. "And speaking of the dress, Lucas, were you aware that was the amount being requested?" Lucas's face darkened. $8,000. I already thought the dress budget was too high when Jessica told me it was 2,000. The room went completely silent. My mother glared at me for revealing this. Jessica became suddenly very interested in her manicure. I pulled out my folder of documents. "I think it's time we put all the cards on the table." I handed out copies to everyone and spoke as they looked at the spreadsheet. 45,000. That's a record of every financial contribution I've made to this family over the past 10 years. It includes helping with the house refinance, paying off Jessica's credit card debt twice, covering Dad's medical bills when he had pneumonia, and dozens of smaller loans that were never repaid. What it doesn't include is any record of emotional support flowing in the other direction." The room was silent as they reviewed the numbers. Lucas kept glancing between Jessica and my parents, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "Last week, my 7-year-old son had emergency surgery," I continued. "I called each of you asking for support. Not money, just your presence. None of you showed up. Not once during his 2-day hospital stay. Michael asked me if his grandparents were mad at him because you didn't visit." My mother looked embarrassed, but my father remained defensive. "We explained why we couldn't come. You're blowing this out of proportion." "Am I? Because 2 days after you couldn't be bothered to visit your grandson in the hospital, You demanded 8,000 for a wedding dress. How exactly should I interpret those priorities? I turned to Lucas again. Did you know about Michael's surgery? He shook his head slowly. No, I had no idea. Jessica's look was poisonous. Stop trying to make Lucas think badly of us. This is just your jealousy talking. You've always resented that Mom and Dad love me more. The words hung in the air after her outburst. The truth we'd all known but never said out loud. My father coughed uncomfortably. Jessica, that's not true. We love both our daughters equally. But it was too late. Lucas was staring at his fiancée differently. My mother couldn't meet anyone's eyes. I took a deep breath and gave the speech I'd been practicing since Sunday. Family means showing up for each other. It means celebrating successes and providing support during crises. It means care flows in both directions, not just one way. For years, I've been the one expected to give. Financially, emotionally, practically, while receiving only token acknowledgement in return. That ends today. I looked at each of them before continuing. I'm not cutting contact with this family. I'm not saying I'll never help in a genuine emergency. But I am establishing firm boundaries. No more financial support without genuine relationship. No more one-sided giving. No more treating me like a convenient ATM while ignoring my son. I picked up my purse and my documents. The money I've saved is for Michael's future and our security. It's not available for designer wedding dresses or any other non-essential expenses. The emergency account will remain frozen until we've rebuilt trust, which will take time and genuine effort from all of you. If you want a relationship with me and with Michael, you're welcome to it. But it has to be based on mutual care and respect, not financial transactions. The choice is yours. I stood and headed for the door. Nobody spoke as I walked toward it. Lucas's voice stopped me just as I reached it. Sarah, I want to apologize. I had no idea about any of this, especially about your son's surgery. For what it's worth, I think you're absolutely right about family priorities. I thanked him and left, noting the look of shock on Jessica's face. As I drove home, I felt lighter than I had in years. Like a weight I'd forgotten I was carrying had been lifted. A lot has changed since that confrontation in my parents' living room 2 months ago. Michael's fully recovered from his surgery. He's back to riding his bike and building elaborate Lego creations all over his bedroom floor. The physical recovery was straightforward. The emotional landscape has been more complicated. For 3 weeks after the confrontation, my family maintained complete silence. No phone calls, no text messages, no social media interactions. I focused on Michael and myself, establishing new routines and priorities. Without the constant anxiety about the next financial request, I finally made an appointment with Dr. Morgan, a therapist who specializes in family dynamics and boundary setting. Our weekly sessions have helped me recognize patterns I'd normalized for years. Subtle manipulation, emotional withholding, unspoken obligations that were never reciprocated. What you're describing is a classic family system with rigid roles, Dr. Morgan said in one of our early sessions. You were assigned the role of provider and fixer, while your sister was given the role of being taken care of. Breaking out of those roles threatens the entire system, which is why the backlash was so severe. She's helped me maintain my boundaries while also processing the grief, because I am grieving the family relationship I always wanted but never actually had. It's painful, but necessary work. The financial freedom from family emergencies has been surprising. I've planned a summer vacation for Michael and me. Our first real vacation that isn't visiting family. We're going to spend a week at a beach resort with pools and kids' activities. Michael talks about it constantly. His excitement reminds me daily that I made the right